Afternoon, everybody.
No!
How you doing, Norm? What do you know? Not enough.
Nothing for you. Come back 1 year.
Who's there?
Vita do Miami, comrade.
You got one shot. Take it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today, well, as you can tell from the title of the video, we are going to be going over how television has really really is in this transition phase as a result of the rise of streaming services. Now, when this video comes out, I believe the 73rd Emmy Awards already happened, and personally, I don't give two fucks about the Emmy Awards. And if last year's ratings really showed us is that nobody gives a fuck about Hollywood award shows anymore. So what are the ratings going to be for the, 73rd Emmy Awards? Probably a fuck ton lower than last year's. But one good thing that came out of the Emmys this year is that Variety did a series on, how television is transitioning, and they really break it down into 5 categories. They break it down into the fall season of standard television, the development of television shows, casting, marketing, and even metrics / ratings. So, and that's what we're going to be going all over in today's video. And I know it's quite a long one, but there's a lot to dissect here. So, without further dilly-dallying, let's just get right into these articles. So we have this first article here titled, TV's Fall Season, Why It Endures Despite Streaming Surge and the Content Explosion. Traditional television ratings are on the wane, shrinking like a leaking balloon. Thousands of on-demand titles are available at the fingertips of TV fans across a smorgasbord of streaming services, which are pumping a continuously flowing river of brand new content that's hitting year-round. And you could make the argument here that is the real problem with this, streaming explosion, is this smorgasbord of streaming services. I think that is inevitably going to come back and bite them in the ass, if I'm being 100% honest, because when it was just Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu, overall movie and TV piracy was actually on the decline, but we've been seeing ever since 2018, it's actually started to increase because of the introduction of all these brand new streaming services that nobody asked for. But let's continue on here. Does the fall TV season even matter anymore with the flood of new programming dropping left and right all over the calendar? Netflix, for one, has said it will premiere a new original film every week in 2021, and the likes of Disney Plus and HBO Max have been rolling out new series on a regular basis. Industry execs say the traditional TV season still provides a powerful tool for a variety of reasons. Quote, the fall season remains the clear kickoff of the TV calendar year, with all of the power and excitement that accompanies it, says Jane Gould, Exec VP of Content Research, Insights, and Scheduling at Disney General Entertainment. But just like everything else in the media landscape, it is evolving, end quote. Programming executives are finding that developing premiere strategies across broadcast, cable, and streaming has become an increasingly complex puzzle as they try to get the optimal slot to break through the clutter. It's much more complicated today, says Jeff Bader, NBC Universal Television and Streaming's president of entertainment program planning strategy. Scheduling used to be a game of checkers. Your competitors make moves, you make moves. Then it became like 3D chess. Now it's multi-dimensional because people watch across different times and days. For networks, the fall TV lineup is a recommendation engine and a curation tool, says Dan Harrison, Fox Entertainment's exec VP of Program Planning and Content Strategy. And we'll get to that at the end of this. Quote, "We're in the urgency business," Harrison says. "Our schedule allows us to focus on a more limited number of shows relative to the streamers. These are the shows we think are going to pierce popular culture, and we want you to watch it. Broadcast is still the biggest storefront." End quote. Well, they might have a point, given the release strategy of many of these streaming services that want to drop everything at once, whereas broadcast television releases it on more of a weekly basis. That you could make an argument that is what keeps X or Y show in the conversation versus something like Jupiter's Legacy, where everybody talks about it for a week and then moves on from it like it was yesterday's news. TV viewing patterns still follow a seasonal cycle, with audiences trained to expect new and returning shows coming back after Labor Day. Broadcast and cable networks also have carved out a mid-season point at the beginning of the calendar year, with summer representing another discrete time period to intro new programming. Quote, "We have far fewer repeats than ever," says Harrison. "They don't work as well. We have to meet this demand for original content." Adds NBCU's Bader, "We are more and more going toward year-round premieres." I'm gonna butcher this name, and I apologize because the name sounds Japanese. Is Noriko Kelly, CBS's exec VP program scheduling and planning, calls the fall TV season the quote-unquote content engine for advertising and streaming revenue and international distribution. "The schedule has always been the first stop for viewers," she said. The long-established programming grid also gives linear TV networks a competitive advantage over streamers because it lets CBS and others promote new shows in programming blocks. Kelly notes, for example, on Tuesdays, CBS is stacking a night of Dick Wolf's FBI shows together, starting September 21st in a special crossover event. Season 4 of original flagship FBI airs at 8 p.m., I believe that's Eastern Time. Followed by Season 3 of FBI Most Wanted at 9 p.m. and the series debut of FBI International at 10 p.m. Lead-ins still matter, says Kelly, and that is a very good point, because when was the last time you tuned into a streaming service and they actually had ad blocks? Now, I know that more streaming services are introducing this, like you go onto like Paramount Plus and it's like, your show will start after these messages and it's like a 30-second ad spot for, X Paramount Plus original, or oh fuck, what's another one I actively watch? I know of another one that is starting to do it, and Amazon started doing that a couple years ago too. But and they do make a point here that with linear TV networks, it's a lot easier to stack shows together. That way, shows can piggyback off each other. A perfect example with this too was Bob's Burgers. Bob's Burgers completely piggybacked off of the success of Family Guy at the time. Now, Bob's Burgers is a really good show, but I think had it not followed Family Guy, I don't think that Bob's Burgers would have gotten as popular as it did. Let's be 100% honest. Furthermore, the build-up and promotion for new seasons of TV is specifically aimed at providing a 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. lead-in to local affiliate stations' late newscasts, as well as networks' late night shows. Quote, "We have 240 affiliates, and linear scheduling plays a big role in their business," NBCU's Bader says. NBC is premiering a dozen new series this fall TV season, including 2 nights of Dick Wolf shows. See, and that's one of the big problems, is that whenever you introduce a new show, you have to cut an old one. Now, it's fine if you're cutting shows that maybe were once popular but no longer are, or shows that just never got off the ground. But this is the other problem. You know, NBC is premiering a dozen new series this fall. How many shows are you having to cut prematurely? You know, okay, X or Y show has a very shaky first season, like most shows do. Let's be 100% honest, the first season of How I Met Your Mother was not really that great, but the later seasons of that show were really, really good. Yeah, too many shows have to get cut prematurely because you have to make room for all these new shows, which adds a lot of added pressure that these shows better fucking deliver, otherwise your show's getting fucking axed. And I think that's just too much pressure to put on a brand new show. But again, that's just my opinion here. According to Bader, the launch of a new TV season is just the start of the life cycle of monetizing original programming. Quote, "We are finding more and more that shows suddenly take off on digital." He says, after Netflix released past seasons of Good Girls, The Good Place, and Manifest, that did drive a, quote, huge influx of viewers back to NBC on both TV and digital platforms. And that is an argument you can make for why streaming and binge watching culture is good, but I'm getting a little too ahead of myself right now. I'm going to get to that by the end. Of course, some in the biz scratch their heads over the extensive time and energy that broadcast nets invest in hyping the new fall schedule. Quote, "From my seat, the fall TV season has always been a little counterintuitive," says Rob Chernow, president of programming for A&E Networks. There's always something strange about everybody launching their new shows all at once. When everyone is firing their guns off at the same time, how do you get heard? There's so much out there competing for eyeballs, end quote. And he has a fucking point. Why? It's just like in the movie industry. Everybody wanted to aim for the summer blockbuster season. That was always Memorial Day all the way up through Labor Day. And that's where everybody put their big fucking movies. And then many of these studios were sitting back just going, what? How did the movie lose a lot of money? Oh, I don't know. You only launched it in one of the most competitive fucking markets, which is the summer blockbuster season. Well, gosh darn golly gee, I wonder why. Maybe you would have been better off releasing the movie in November or maybe as early as March. No. We have to release it between Memorial Day and Labor Day because that's what the fucking bean counters tell us. For streamers, it's more important to put out a regular drumbeat of stuff to ensure that they can convince subscribers to keep paying the monthly fee. Quote, "We think about when a series will have the best chance of penetrating the zeitgeist and galvanizing the culture conversation," says Meredith Gertler, Exec VP Content Strategy and Planning for HBO and HBO Max at Warner Media. For HBO, the traditional quote-unquote fall TV season has never historically been the central focus for HBO in the same way that it has been for broadcast and basic cable. Gertler adds, "As a monthly subscription service, our programming model has always been geared toward a year-round proposition. It's important to keep our subscribers consistently engaged throughout the year. And yes, HBO is one of those few networks where their business model starting back, I believe in the 1970s, was you paid an extra, $5 a month to your cable bill to access HBO. So, and I always said this at the beginning of the whole like streaming service explosion, that if there were ever, the TV networks that would be successful in launching their own streaming services would be services like HBO, Showtime, and Cinemax. We all call it fucking Cinemax for a reason. Because those networks were always a subscription model to begin with. Sometimes you could get HBO. I don't think you could ever get HBO bundled into your cable. You had to pay the extra like $15 a month if you wanted to watch something like Game of Thrones. Disney does see some lift from the fall TV season in terms of past shows that are returning to linear, says Gabe Lewis, Senior VP Programming and Content Curation for Disney+. But one of the benefits of streaming is that, quote, "we can program year-round without some of the considerations that dictate how linear programming operates," he adds. Additionally, the content in Disney Plus is curated globally in more than 60 countries. So premieres and program scheduling decisions, quote, also need to make sense beyond the US, says Lewis. This includes markets with our Star General Entertainment brand, which directly benefit from the great content our linear teams are creating and programming that eventually comes to those services. Streamers are still experimenting with release timing and whether to release bingeable full seasons all at once, as Netflix typically does, and again, we will get to that by the end of this video. Disney Plus, for example, has moved more of its episodic unscripted programming to an all-at-once release strategy based on viewing data. The service also recently began premiering all scripted original series on Wednesdays versus Fridays, starting with Loki. And quote, so far have been very pleased with the results, says Lewis. At the end of the day, in a world of ubiquitous on-demand access, quote, we know that not every viewer is waiting until Tuesday at 8 o'clock, Fox Entertainment's Harrison says, but people are still coming to us to see what's new. Again, I do think that there are benefits to a, broadcast fall TV schedule as maybe not this article brought up, but I did, where, they still release on a weekly schedule, therefore keeping the show in the conversation, versus pulling what Netflix does, like with something like Jupiter's Legacy or Masters of the Universe Revelation. Actually, no, Masters of the Universe Revelation is a bad example. But, Jupiter's Legacy, Glow, Stranger Things, where they just drop everything at once. That basically ensures everybody's going to talk about it for a week and then move on like it's yesterday's news. So guys, that pretty much does it for the fall TV season. So let's go right into the next part of this video here. Now let's go into the development of television shows with this right here. Many rooms drive major controversy as creative community feels strain of TV's vast expansion. There's no aspect of scripted television development process that hasn't fundamentally changed in the past decade. The rise of streaming has accelerated the industry's focus from linear TV to an on-demand ecosystem. There are more platforms and opportunities for writers to get a show on the air, and all that expansion has put a strain on the talent pool needed to make television that has forced innovations in the way shows are conceived, developed, ordered, and produced. Of late, the spread of what have been known as writer, quote-unquote, mini-rooms, replacing the traditional and much maligned pilot development process, is one of the more hotly debated developments. I scrolled too far. No, I didn't. In an earlier era, when broadcast TV was the only game in town for big-budgeted scripted TV, shows went through a very predictable process: development to a pilot order to a series order. But now, thanks to the rise of powerful new streamers like Netflix, pilots are becoming the exception rather than the rule. Just a series with episode orders of 6, 8, 10, or 13 episodes per season, compared to 22 or 24 in the past decade. Now, what they're not bringing up is, the series with episode orders of, 10 or 13 episodes was actually the norm for a first season of a brand new show, because why are you going to pay for a 22 to 24 episode season if the show hasn't even, if the show isn't a proven show yet? If it's, hey, will this even resonate with the audience? More and more major TV players are relying on straight-to-series orders to fill out their programming slates. While certainly not a new phenomenon, Netflix created a surge in such orders early in its original programming days, when it began greenlighting shows at an astonishing rate. This phenomenon was even parodied in shows like South Park. Yes, and I will go ahead and play that South Park clip right here in its full context. Yeah, it's the famous, Netflix, you're greenlit. There is obviously a heavy risk in such an order, but it can also provide distinct advantages, like attracting big-name creators and stars with a guaranteed production start. The practice has even started to permeate across broadcast television, the last bastion of the traditional pilot process. Both the CW and ABC gave out a straight-to-series order this past pilot season, though ABC ultimately rescinded theirs, a multicam sitcom starring Alec Baldwin and Kelsey Grammer. See, right there, like that could have actually been pretty funny, especially if Kelsey Grammer was playing a shrink, and I think you guys already know where I'm going with it. But again, there's no other details other than that, so I can't really give my full opinion. Another model gaining traction among TV executives: script to series orders and the opening of mini writers' rooms. This typically consists of a show creator, showrunner, and a smaller group of writers then would work in a full room writing multiple scripts for a show's potential first season in order to give executives an idea of where the show may go and what kind of budget they can expect per episode. This process has led to series orders for shows like Our Kind of People at Fox and Kevin Can Fuck Himself at AMC. Yes, that is the actual title of the show, and they bleep out the word here in the article, but I'm going to say it: Kevin Can Fuck Himself, among others. The latter show was recently picked up for a second season, while the former is getting a fall launch behind network mainstay The Resident on Tuesday nights. But not everyone in the industry is high on the idea of mini writers' rooms. TV writers and agents have railed against the practice, which tends to offer less pay than a traditional writers' room. Robert King, the co-creator of shows like The Good Wife and Evil, I believe both on Paramount Plus, tells Variety that he's seen virtually no upside for a writer to take part in a mini writers' room. The talents of writer-producers are being acquired for a song, King says, and it's a system built on a lie. That writer-producers are not exercising their producing muscle when they build stories, they only exercise their producing muscle during filming. This is wrong. When writer-producers are not actually writing a script, but in fact are helping another build and write a story, they are acting as a producer. End quote. King goes on to say that another issue with many writers' rooms is that they offer creators and showrunners less creative clout. Quote, if showrunners have done most, if not all of the heavy lifting of story building in the mini writers' room, then there is less of a reason to keep them as the voice of the show, he says. They become one more cog in the creative process. Multiple TV lit agents who spoke with Variety expressed similar sentiment, though they said the issue is a bit more complicated. Yeah, like everything is. And they do have a point. You know, how many shows are you now seeing them just burning through showrunners left and right? And I remember, I brought up Jupiter's Legacy earlier. That show actually went through 2 different showrunners, and I'm gonna sound really stupid, but I cannot remember the name of the first showrunner. And I remember him being quite a big name. I'll put it up on screen in the edit of this video, but for the love of God, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head before replacing him through midway through production, which only drove up production costs, which is the funnier part. So allegedly, you know, there's less reason to keep these showrunners as the voice of the show, but the networks are actually spending more money doing that practice than just keeping one guy around. One agent said that there can be legitimate reasons to put together a mini writer's room, such as the project in question has a very complex mythology and requires significant world building before a network or studio will commit serious money to it. Okay, that's one thing. Or if you're going into a pre-established, you know, franchise with a lot of lore, then yeah, you gotta get all that shit straightened out together before you even start shooting that first episode. Others said that while junior writers will not earn the same money they would for a regular room, a mini writer's room can offer them valuable experience and allow them to build relationships with showrunners, aka basically be slaves. Okay, I hate to break this to you, and I think I've mentioned this on my channel before. I've been a professional photographer off and on for the last 13 years. I'm going to be 25 this year. And you will not believe how many times I have heard that fucking argument, that working this event will provide you a valuable experience and allow you to build relationships with all of these people. I really hate to break it to you, but a lot of those relationships will not go anywhere, number one, And the moment you start charging for your services, they axe your ass and go to the next guy who's more than willing to do it for free. So sorry, I don't buy this bullshit. My experience tells me this is nothing but bullshit. The mini writers room can offer a junior writer valuable experience and allow them to build relationships with showrunners. Basically, be my bitch and work for less than standard industry wages. Most agreed, however, that more often than not, a mini writer's room is simply a way for networks and studios to protect their bottom line at the expense of writers. Yes, it is. And I brought up my photography example. You will not believe how many times I heard that bullshit line. The WGA, that's the Writers Guild of America, has also cautioned the members to make sure that their pay and time expectations for mini writers' rooms are carefully negotiated beforehand. In a blog post titled "Mini Rooms Are Writers' Rooms," period, the Guild wrote, quote, "Guild members should understand exactly what they're signing up for on a mini room project, because there is often no production commitment at the start. Experienced writers may find themselves working at WGA scale. For that reason, writers should try whenever possible to negotiate an overscale weekly rate for each week in the room. Your work has the same value in a mini room as it does in a regular writer's room. Your fee should accurately reflect your title and expenses." And I do have to apologize, the WGA is not only the Writers Guild of America, it is the World Canadian Bureau. And I already mentioned South Park, so I can get away with that. Mini writers' rooms are just one of the issues facing TV writers. As Variety previously reported, the logjam caused by all the projects purchased for development during the pandemic-related production shutdown has led to very challenging market conditions. According to sources, multiple projects with A-list talent attached have failed to find homes in recent months, while others have only gotten off the ground due to the fact they were based on well-known IP. That doesn't shock me at all, that that some shows have only got off the ground because of their association with a well-known intellectual property, but the original show is the one that always gets shit-canned. This could soon spell the complete end of the traditional pilot process as we know it. After all, in a highly competitive environment, why would a legacy media company like Disney, Viacom, CBS, or NBC Universal shell out millions of dollars to staff and produce one episode of the show that may not go to air? But that's the risk you always run. That's like saying, I'm never going to invest my money unless if I know that it's going to be profitable. Then you don't deserve to be called an investor, because every investor inevitably loses money. It's not a matter of if you lose money as an investor, it's a matter of when. Says King, if networks and studios can save money and the WGA won't fight for writers, the mini room is the future. Another tricky phenomenon: when parent companies shift a broadcast or cable show to streaming, license fees, episodic orders, and budgets are all different, and that makes renegotiating deals difficult. NBC's AP Bio has moved to Peacock, while CBS has slid SEAL Team and Evil over to Paramount Plus, but others haven't made the transition. The continuing reorganization of the executive ranks at the largest established media giants has also created some hurdles. Yes, for those that don't know, recently, I believe the former head of Nickelodeon is now the head of, I want to say, Paramount. I know it's not Viacom. I think he's now the head of Paramount. New regimes mean new priorities, and that has a way of shifting demand for projects. Yes, and a lot of people feel that is the only reason why the 2015 Muppet Show on ABC even got canceled, because during that time you had a shift in leadership, and well, the very common thing to do is to cancel the old guys' shows and get your shows in. Scribes and agents alike say it has become exhausting trying to keep tabs on the landscape. Just when the people think they have a handle on the environment, it changes again. With pandemic conditions making work harder across the board and competition among networks running at a fever pitch, it remains to be seen when writers will be able to scope out a new normal in this fast-changing world of television. Now, yeah, you could make the argument that, you know, going straight to series for a show that's unproven is not really a good idea, unless if you have a star that's already proven. But again, you're seeing this with, you know, with streaming services, and the way they're even shooting television shows now. It's not enough, you know, to do episodic. You have to give people a reason to come back weekly. Like, you know, and even, you know, one of my favorite shows on television, that was Survivor, even changed to more of that recently when they got rid of the previously on Survivor, and they would recap the prior week's episode. Now, if you miss an episode, well, you're shit out of luck. So how long can that normal last? Who really knows? But so guys, with this out of the way, let's get right into the third portion of this video. Now let's dig into the casting process with this. How COVID and globalization have upended TV casting, some of the magic has been lost. The pandemic has transformed the casting process, for now at least, with Zoom actor tryouts largely replacing in-person sessions and self-tape auditions supplementing those as many of us hunker down at home. Now, to be fair, self-tape was around for a very, very long time. For those of you listening to this that have no idea what the hell self-tape is, it's just like it sounds. You're basically like in a room by yourself and you go, you know, hi, my name is Gary Reed and I am auditioning for, you know, X role, the lead on, you know, oh, what's something I could throw out there that would be, you know, hilarious. On the you know, 15th reboot of Knight Rider, you know, reading for the voice of Kit, you know, type bullshit. You know, that's basically what self-tape is. It's not clear whether these virtual auditions are here to stay or will fade away once the global health crisis finally does. Casting pros and talent agents say there are clear benefits to virtual sessions conducted over video conferencing platforms like Zoom, but lament the lack of intimacy compared to in-person auditions. Yes, you can't really, you know, compare a performance unless if you're actually in the room with somebody else. You don't get the same energy watching a video as you do actually watching somebody live. Believe me, I did high school theater. There is a very, very big difference between watching a theater performance on, you know, YouTube versus watching a performance on, you know, on the stage. In the short term, however, many see these virtual auditions as having a big silver lining for Hollywood. When the pandemic shut down much of the industry in March 2020, Zoom enabled casting pros to broaden their reach further. Working from home and not having to commute to offices or travel to meetings, they were able to see more actors than normal. Barry McPherson, APA partner and co-head of talent, found that casting pros were seeing more actors during the early stages of the pandemic. Quote, it was a captive audience, which was good for actors because there was more free time for executives to set up Zoom meetings and have more people on different projects, says McPherson, whose agent represents Reservation Dogs star Paulina Alexis, Mel Gibson, and Norbert Leo Butz. It wasn't just about seeing more actors. Notes The Handmaid's Tale casting director Sharon Bialy. We are able to extend the scope and range of the search for actors for any given role promptly, she tells Variety. Sarah Finn found similar advantages when casting Disney Plus's The Mandalorian. Virtual casting meant she was able to keep up with the volume and speed needed to cast the show, but more importantly, she was able to see a wider range of actors. Zoom and self-tape auditions have also enabled actors to get creative, transforming backgrounds and using props instead of taping against blank walls. They didn't have to get it right on the first take, a luxury not afforded to actors during in-person auditions. And you could argue that in-person audition, you can really spot the actor's true skill. Now, it's one thing if you don't get it right on the first take. Most people never do. Most people fuck up, right? But if you're on like take 7 or take 8 and you're still fucking up, there's a pretty good chance that it's like, yeah, kid, go back to acting class, because you need quite a few more lessons under your belt before you're ready for the big leagues. Quote, actors have the benefit of being able to record as many different versions of the scene as they wanted and have the ease and comfort of their own space, which can breed a lot of creativity, Finn says. But again, you can also do that in person. You have to be prepared to change it up every time a casting director or even the showrunner asks you to do it, where it's like, okay, now do this scene as if you're more agitated, more pissed off at the guy because you're too happy. Get even more pissed off. So it's the idea of never get married to like one form of delivery of a scene. Robert Stern, casting director of The Crown, who won a Creative Arts Emmy over the weekend, says self-tapes are especially helpful on international projects. Quote, it's more inclusive economically as well as geographically, he says, in terms of opening more doors to a wider range of actors, especially at a time when all the creative industries have been so beleaguered. It's a force for good. And I know I butchered that fucking word, but you know what? I'm tired, so bite me. But as casting professionals relied more on self-tapes and Zoom sessions during the pandemic, they began to note the inevitable downsides. Bad lighting, unreliable internet connection, and unprompted children and pets appearing. In a moment that went viral last November, a director trash-talked actor Lucas Gage's apartment during a Zoom audition, not realizing the Euphoria and White Lotus actor could hear him. The actor posted a video of that awkward moment on Twitter, advising powers that be to make sure to mute their comments on Zoom meetings. Awkwardness of virtual sessions aside, casting directors and talent agents miss in-person chemistry, and while some have tried to make the best of the Brady Bunch style Zoom to create rapport, it's not the same, they lament. Quote, there is nothing better than being able to connect with an actor in person, says Kim Williams, President, Casting Society of America, and VP Casting Disney Television Studios. Buckwald talent agent Marion Campbell Kamer, whose company represents Kylie Jefferson of Tiny Pretty Things and Bradley Constant of Young Rock, believes the pandemic has changed the casting process drastically. Quote, it used to be that an actor would go into the room and read live for the casting director, producers, writer, and director, she notes. Being in the room gives the actor such a nice chance to connect with the creative team, talk to them, get to know them, and ultimately feel out their energy as they do the audition for them, end quote. The Zoom environment has been a difficult one to navigate for her clients, who include Judy Reyes of Search Party and One Day at a Time, Martin Sensmeyer of Yellowstone and The Liberator, Ravi Patel, American Housewife, and Matthew Del Negro, City on a Hill. Quote, an actor can still chat with the team on Zoom before they do the audition, but once they start the audition, everyone puts themselves on mute, she notes. The actor loses the opportunity to hear the reaction to the audition, and I think that some of the magic of that process has been lost. Bialy concurs, lamenting the opportunity to work with actors in the room and provide specific direction that we gleaned from in-depth conversations with the creators of the show. We have lost the ability to help shape each actor's audition so the producers see their best take. Zoom auditions can be challenging, but at least there's a level of interaction, however remote. When it comes to self-tapes, it's impossible to know if the audition is along the lines of what the creatives are looking for, because without proper guidance and feedback from a casting director, the actor is in the dark, Kammer says, and that they do have a point with that. As the return to in-person slowly emerges, there is hope for a hybrid of in-person and virtual sessions, especially since the latter affords more access and greater choice, as opposed to the limited accessibility of in-person. But Julie Harkin, who casts HBO's I May Destroy You, says for all its efficiency of the self-tape, will never compete with the power of in-person meetings. You get a much deeper understanding of the actor, which enables the casting director to place them in the right role. And while the world of casting has evolved over the years, Kim Taylor Coleman, Emmy nominated this year for her work on Lovecraft Country, waxes nostalgic of hard copy submissions. Quote, I would love opening up the 8x10 photos and reading everyone's resumes. Something hard that I do not miss was editing auditions from hi-8 tapes to VHS or CDs. That was time consuming, end quote. So yeah, that pretty much, it might be easier on casting directors to not have to go and actually set up an office somewhere and have the actors come in, but with a lack of guidance, how is the actor supposed to know if they're doing a good job or not? Basically, well, you're just gonna have to wait and see, unfortunately. Now let's dive into marketing with this. Tune in whenever you want how TV marketing has changed in the on-demand era. Each fall, as part of a long-held ritual, TV networks release dozens of new programs and dozens of gimmicks, promotions, and marketing schemes to call attention to them. In years past, CBS tattooed supermarket eggshells with show logos and dispensed cups of yogurt with flavors like Sheldon's Bazinga Blueberry to hawk The Big Bang Theory. Fox dispatched pounds and pounds of Halloween candy to media reports to tout the Simpsons' annual Treehouse of Horror Halloween special. The CW lined up a Dynasty bus to take people to the Hamptons with tank tops and tumblers devoted to the soapy reboot. And ABC offered up sessions of goat yoga to drum up publicity for a comic drama called Kevin Probably Saves the World. As more TV viewers become digital streamers, however, there are questions about whether these outlandish stunts still have a place in TV firmament. Darren Shillings has been launching TV series for years and had a hand in a banner year at ABC when his former employer debuted Desperate Housewives, Lost, and Grey's Anatomy during the 2004-2005 season. The president of marketing for Fox Broadcasting still sees reason to employ some of the aforementioned strategies and even buy up the Hollywood billboards that give producers and TV executives reassurance that networks are indeed promoting their programs. But increasingly, Schilling says those techniques are just not as critical as to what consumers are responding to these days. The rise of streaming hubs like Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Peacock, Hulu, and Netflix has changed the way viewers find out about potential TV favorites. At a moment in the not-too-distant past, TV networks needed to aim promotional firepower in the hopes of getting couch potatoes to tune into a new drama or reality show that aired Tuesday at 9 p.m. or Wednesday at 8 p.m. But more people are latching onto a series in hopes of binging through them at moments of their own choosing, and the dynamic is reworking how TV strategists try to sell programs to potential audiences. And again, I think this is a practice that is hurting TV in the long run, because you're even seeing this in the development of television shows, is that how many episodes will intentionally end on cliffhangers, so you have to immediately start watching the next episode to get the full story. They're basically dragging episodes out to where like a storyline that would only be like 2 or 3 episodes long is now being stretched to like a full 10 episode season. But quote, in the past you wanted them to tune in at a specific time and place, says Paul Hardart, director of Media, Entertainment, and Technology program at New York University Stern School of Business. Now you want them to subscribe. Different goals, he says, require different marketing dynamics. To drive success in streaming, media companies, quote, want to acquire you like a credit card company. What it's going to take to get you to sign up, and once you sign up, they will want to retain you. In previous decades era, the networks would start touting their new programs as early as the May before they launched, to coincide with their announcement at one of the industry's upfront presentations. The network might want to announce it on a Tuesday afternoon, and voila! There would be promos on air in primetime that night. But in an era of on-demand everything, some executives think announcing something that can't be watched immediately may be foolhardy. People discover things and make decisions much more quickly than they used to, says Mike Benson, Chief Marketing Officer of CBS. The cadence of our campaign seems to be changing. Things become very hot very fast, and you may not need as much time to market the product as you used to. In 2018, Netflix raised eyebrows by using an ad in Super Bowl 52 to tell viewers that it had just released the J.J. Abrams movie The Cloverfield Paradox, which was available to stream immediately. Over and over, I'm seeing people say, don't tell me something is coming when it's not available immediately because people want it, says Benson, who has also worked for Amazon and Disney. Marketing executives have also had to think about their series in different ways. In the past, getting people to tune into the debut of a series was paramount. After all, networks might yank a show off the air if it didn't perform up to expectations in its early weeks on air. Same thing happened with Firefly. Now executives like Rick Haskins say they are increasingly mindful of a potential halo effect of people discovering the series well after its first broadcast run, when it moves to streaming. Those fans may bounce over to the network that houses the show's initial appearance if it has new episodes at the ready. Well, yeah, you saw this with the launch of, with The Expanse. It was on Sci-Fi for a long time, then they canceled it, then Amazon picked it up, and everybody went to Amazon for it. It even happened with, not Justified. What was the show that basically ripped it off? It came out around the same time. It was with Lou Diamond Phillips. Longmire. Longmire was on A&E. I think it ran for the first 3 seasons, and A&E canceled it, moved over to Netflix, and they ran it for the last 3. So they do have a point there. Those fans may... Okay, in October, CW will launch the next season of All-American. The series inspired by the life of former football player Spencer Pasinger. The show has a run on Netflix, and Haskins, the CW's president of streaming and its chief branding officer, believes that has boosted the ratings of the linear run. The executive says he has stopped thinking about linear views and digital consumption as different categories. We really view it all as one ecosystem, where we go to drive from social to digital and from digital to linear and back again. Chances are, however, that the networks still rely on some of their tried and true methods, blending them with the audience targeting tools found in digital and social media. There are still shows that thrive on day-and-date viewing, including big hits like Masked Singer, says Shalance, and those programs continue to generate tens of millions of dollars in ad support. That means the networks still need to drive awareness as much as they need to harness anticipation from very specific niches of audiences. One area that gets increased scrutiny is sampling, or getting part of a show or a whole episode in front of likely fans before it premieres. We are looking to put our shows in front of who might be the most passionate fans, says Shalance. Let them help us do the marketing. Make them evangelists. Ow, damn it. Someone will probably find a clever gizmo or guerrilla marketing campaign between now and the end of the fall season's launch period. Simply put, quote, I think those campaigns can help drive word of mouth, says Benson. There's still a lot of stuff out there. And see, this is one of the bigger problems in marketing right now, is that it's not enough to just like a show. You have to be obsessed with the show. And if they don't see that there is a true tried and obsessed fan base for a specific show, they will even yank that too, because it's like, well, like they put it in here, make them evangelists. Basically make the show a fucking religion, and that could be a whole separate discussion for another time if I'm being 100% honest. Now we move on to the metrics with this. What metrics matter most? TV industry grapples with rating shortcomings in fast-growing content landscape. The rapid migration of TV viewers to streaming services and on-demand platforms has put added pressure on the need for transparent measurement standards at a time when Nielsen, the standard bearer for TV ratings for decades, is under fire from the industry watchdog group Media Ratings Council. Earlier this month, the MRC suspended its backing of Nielsen National Ratings Service amid charges the service had not been counting TV viewers correctly during the coronavirus pandemic. No rival has emerged to take Nielsen's place, though NBC Universal is working on its own measurement system. NBCU and others are motivated to take extraordinary steps to address the measurement shortcomings in the expanded TV universe because of the fear that ad-supported networks are leaving money on the table with marketers. It's not just the fact that ad-supported networks are leaving money on the table with marketers, but also Nielsen could be grossly overestimating how many people are watching a certain program. Therefore, marketers could also be paying too much money in certain circumstances. Now, how much of this is actually going on? Personally, I don't know. I'm just merely pointing out that this logic can cut both ways. In the meantime, the industry is searching for a better yardstick for the SVOD landscape, which has become amplified during the pandemic with 4 new prominent new streaming platforms: HBO Max, Peacock, Discovery Plus, and Paramount Plus, joining Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Disney Plus, and Apple TV Plus as major contenders for audience share. And all of these services have different metrics for their success, adding to the confusion across the industry about the performance benchmarks that matter most. Quote, as the streaming space gets more crowded and major players are seeking to carve out their own success, the most important metrics to consider are audience engagement and retention, said Dietrich von Behren, Chief Business Officer at Reelgood, a streaming navigation service that allows users to easily browse through streaming options from a single hub. Nielsen earlier this year launched The Gauge, a service that measures the share of total audience viewing and how it breaks down among broadcast, cable, and streaming as a big picture view of the larger TV ecosystem. Scrolled a little too far. Here we go. Are people watching? How much are they churning? And what shall define how these questions are answered is the popularity of the original content each streaming service can deliver to their subscribers, Von Betteren says. Netflix places its emphasis on revenue and market share. Both total revenue and revenue per subscriber, an individual with knowledge of the heavyweight streamer thinking told Variety. As such, subscriber numbers are important to the company, both in absolutes and in terms of reach. Netflix is known for carefully watching how many users start a new series, how many users watch episodes in their entirety, and how many users dive into binge watching more than one episode in a sitting. Other platforms look at everything from how quickly users come to the show to the amount of social media chatter generated by a given title. To analysts in the SVOD arena, however, the rubber meets the road in quarterly earnings with subscribers. Quote, subscriber acquisition and retention are ultimately the only metrics that should matter to streamers, says Alejandro Rojas, director of applied analytics at Parrot Analytics, but streamers need to know how to get these numbers, and global streaming video companies need to understand which type of stories are more appealing to their audience. According to Rojas, the clearest leading indicator of subscriber growth is demand. Quote, demand for licensed content is the key to retaining these subscribers. Streamers have no idea how content on other platforms are performing, so demand data democratizes access to this information and allows streamers to make smarter decisions on licensing new content to their platforms, he said. That's where Parrot's demand measurement service comes in. It tracks the way modern digital consumers interact with content, from researching shows on IMDb or Wikipedia, watching a trailer on YouTube, reacting to the show on social media, and watching episodes of the actual series. We are providing an objective view of what audiences want and how much they want it, Rojas says. Rojas points to the massive global demand for Disney Plus' Star Wars and Marvel branded content as one of the biggest success stories of the youthful streaming era. The Mandalorian, WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki have all become the most in-demand TV series in the world across all platforms, with weeks and sometimes days of debuting. He says, quote, it was easy to expect these shows would do well, but the extent of the rapid demand growth and overnight cultural dominance was still surprising. Now, to be fair, in one of the earlier parts of this video, I don't remember which part it is, unfortunately, off the top of my head. I've been going for almost an hour. But someone at Disney did admit that Disney Plus is streaming in over 60 countries. So the fact that the Disney Plus Star Wars and Marvel shows are doing exponentially well could be attributed to that, given that I don't believe HBO Max goes outside of the United States at this point. I think Discovery Plus is only United States. I think the only ones that are truly worldwide are Netflix, Amazon, and Disney Plus, as far as I'm concerned. I believe Hulu is still only exclusive to North America. They may have expanded into Europe. I don't remember. There's too many streaming services to try to keep up with all that news. Yan Liu, CEO of T-Vision Insights, cites co-viewing attention as well as the viewer's share of time spent on each application and the percentage of households with the application installed as another important metric to watch. Quote, those numbers indicate the popularity of a specific application and can indicate both opportunity for growth and the likelihood that subscribers will continue to pay for the service, Liu explains. Disney Plus was able to attract new subscribers who were older with the launch of Mulan in 2020, Liu notes. The Disney Plus subscriber base is twice as likely to include homes with children as the typical viewing household, but the new subscribers from the Mulan launch looked nothing like the Disney Plus core audience. Mulan subscribers were on average older, median age of 47 versus 36, and were far less likely to have children in the home, 31% versus 47%, than the typical Disney Plus subscriber, Liu states. Brian Feurer, Senior VP of Product Strategy at Nielsen Global Media, attests that the old pay TV adage. Sorry, I lost my place here. Brian Feurer, Senior VP of Product Strategy at Nielsen Global Media, attests that the old pay TV adage that, quote, usage equals retention is still critical and will be of increasing value as the streaming landscape continues to fragment. Obviously, the streamers themselves know a great deal about how many times shows are requested, but understanding the characteristics of the people that are viewing the content is going to be important for content development and valuation, he says. Knowing what core users look like from an age, gender, race, or ethnicity perspective can identify key opportunities and competitive weaknesses to guide program creation and acquisition from other sources. Basically, they want to bring the Nielsen ratings from television to streaming, which can help to a degree, but how is Nielsen going to handle those ratings? Is it going to be like the old days where they basically mail you a form and a $20 bill and basically just say, hey, just mark down what shows and networks that you're watching? Because I hate to break this to you, but most people are just going to take the $20 and not fill out the form. And then I think they reduced it down to like $1 or whatever it was. So how is Nielsen going to implement this? Only time will tell at this point. From a sheer metrics perspective, the basic question, how many, how often, and how long, still applies to audience analysis, he continues. Again, while platforms have great insight into their own users, understanding their competitors and what non-users of their service look like is another key component for informing strategy. Ratings concerns are of major importance to creative talent and talent representatives who have traditionally secured bigger paydays and bonuses based on TV shows hitting certain performance benchmarks. Yes, those are typically called, that's a word salad for back-end deals. In the streaming arena, it's hard, if not impossible, for talent to be armed with the information to negotiate a better deal and success. Again, you're talking potential back-end deals here. This is why Feurer explains Nielsen publicly shares the minutes viewed metric for top SVOD programs. Quote, it allows you to put the content of very dissimilar durations, e.g. Grey's Anatomy with 376 episodes versus Outer Banks with 20, on a level and comparable playing field. Nielsen's battle with the Media Ratings Council, the New York-based organization comprised of leaders of media companies, marketers, and advertising agencies, has only made the landscape of audience measurement more complicated. A Nielsen spokesperson said that while the MRC's move was disappointing, the suspension, quote, will not impact the usability of our data. The Nielsen representative emphasized that as far as TV networks and other clients are concerned, it's business as usual in terms of settling advertising transactions based on Nielsen data. Quote, Nielsen remains the currency of choice for media companies, advertisers, and agencies, the company sent a statement to Variety, calling itself committed to the audit process and working with the MRC on resolving the suspension. We will also take the opportunity to focus on innovating our core products and continue to deliver data that clients can rely on, ultimately creating a better media future for the entire industry. Now, while this is all good, for networks such as Hulu, maybe Paramount Plus, Pluto TV, and Tubi, especially knowing who's watching what, given that those are more ad supported, it's gonna do fuck all for Netflix, who is refusing to incorporate any sort of advertising into their service. Where that maybe that'll help them in the long term, but really, let's answer the question: what metrics matter most? Well, the real answer, according to this article, is it really depends on the streaming service. So what does all of this mean for television? The funny part is these 5 articles here from Variety that were written to celebrate the Primetime Emmy Awards did not once take a look at the fact that the streaming services themselves are changing as well. You know, it really started, like, I know this whole, like, streaming revolution began with Netflix. I think it was 2009 or 2010 when they launched their streaming arm to their service. And I remember a time when you had to be a DVD subscriber in order to access the streaming. The streaming did not become its own separate thing till like 2013, like 2012, 2013. And I actually do remember this, and I still have it, and I still have this somewhere in a box. But you actually had to request from Netflix for them to mail you a disc for your Nintendo Wii, your PlayStation 3, or your Xbox 360 in order to install the app onto your video game console. Because back then the internet was still quite shitty, and you can't exactly, while you could download some things from the internet, like Xbox Live Arcade games, same with the Wii. The Wii had the virtual console, but the idea that you can just download an app from the internet and install it from your game console, yeah, good luck selling that. And Netflix started, when they started to get into original programming, they got in with House of Cards and Orange is the New Black and Stranger Things, the three of their biggest. They dropped every episode at once. And the idea being is like, well, this is great for consumers because now you are not dictated to tune in to Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can watch this show at whatever fucking time you want, and you can watch it at whatever pace you want. You want to sit down and binge the entire season in one night? Go for it. I mean, granted, if you have work in the morning, it's gonna really suck, especially if you have 13 episodes of an hour-long series. But you want to do it. You want to be stupid? Go for it. But I've also heard people within the last few years try to make the argument that binge culture is actually anti-consumer. And while I initially disagreed with them, I do see the point that they're coming from. Is that, dropping every episode at the same time, all it does is guarantee that your show will be talked about for a week, and then everybody's going to move on from it like it was yesterday's news. And the perfect example of that was Jupiter's Legacy. That show dropped all 8 episodes on the same day. While that show was not perfect, I did do a review of it. There were some really good aspects to that show. Now, can anyone name a show that really found its footing in the first season that it aired? While there may be one or two that immediately pop to your mind, shows like Bob's Burgers, Family Guy that really just hit the ground running, more often than not, the first season of a given TV show absolutely fucking sucks. It's not until about season 2 or season 3 when the show really found its footing, and a lot of people attribute that with Star Trek: The Next Generation, that it really didn't start to get good until the 3rd season. Same thing with Star Trek Enterprise. I argue that with How I Met Your Mother, I don't think it really got good until the 2nd season. The first season really kind of sucked. But the problem with the idea of dropping every episode at once is the show has to just hit the ground running right out of the gate. And if it doesn't, well, we're gonna shit can it before it even has a chance to, find itself and, find an audience, because, God forbid a show does not take off in its first season. I remember in 2019 when Disney, when The Mandalorian came out, and it was announced that those episodes were going to air weekly, and everybody was sitting back going, oh my god, are Disney fucking idiots? Because everybody's now expecting that every episode is going to be available at once because of Netflix and Amazon and Hulu have now done that for years. So basically everybody's going to sign up at the end, stay signed up for a month, and then drop the service. They're a bunch of idiots if they think they're going to retain the audience. But what happened? After that first episode dropped, Baby fucking Yoda became such a huge thing on the internet that everybody had to tune in and see, like, what the fuck was the big deal about this Baby Yoda. And then all of a sudden, people had to start tuning in every week because they wanted to remain part of the conversation. So you have a streaming service actively going back to what broadcast television used to do. Pluto TV, also owned by Viacom CBS, who also owned Paramount Plus, even adopted that into Pluto TV. It's like you tune into a TV channel. You know, they have like the Star Trek channel. They have a channel dedicated to reality TV with designated ad spots. And guess what? If Pluto TV was a massive failure, why is Viacom CBS still keeping it running as of this uploading? You know, if it was a massive failure, they would have shit-canned it a long time ago and just focused on Paramount Plus. And speaking of Paramount Plus, I personally saw this with the iCarly revival, that they found a happy middle ground between binge culture and the weekly broadcast schedule. The first 3 episodes of that show dropped on launch day, and then every episode after that released a week later. The same thing happened with the Hulu series. Was it only murders in this hotel, or so only murders in this house, only murders in this hotel? That new Steve Martin and Martin Short show that's on Hulu dropped the first 3 episodes on launch day, and then committed to a weekly schedule. Now, while there are still some shows that do drop every episode at once, given the type of show it is, like a lot of reality shows are sticking to that because most people want to binge shit like that. You know, you had Hulu where they did an entire thing on that fucking TikTok star, whatever her name is. I don't know, nor do I care. You know, they dropped all the episodes of that at once. And, you know, anything like regarding documentaries, because why are you going to gate off, you know, oh, you watch, you know, part 1 today, but then you have to tune in next week for part 2. You know, that may have worked on PBS like 20 years ago, but now, how many people just want to sit down and watch an entire 6 or 7 hour documentary in one sitting? Clearly, the audience metrics are showing that there's enough people to do that. And I know I've been rambling on long enough, but as I'm saying, what I'm basically trying to get at here is that while television absolutely had to change because of the rise of streaming services, what we're seeing is we're actually more seeing a return to form. You know, we're finding this happy middle ground, right? We've seen the disaster of the Netflix model where we drop every episode all at once and then hope and pray for the best. More shows get canceled than actually get continued. Let's be 100% honest. But if you go strictly weekly, there's no guarantee that the audience is going to stick around for that. Sure, it worked for the various Star Trek shows on Paramount Plus, but to be fair, Star Trek had also been around for, 50 years by the time Star Trek Discovery launched? So the audience was already used to a weekly format. So I think what you're seeing with regards to streaming services is they're utilizing binge culture to start the conversation and then release it, and then they are going to a weekly schedule. The same thing happened with Breaking Bad and Mad Men when those shows first went to Netflix, I believe in 2012. The first 3 seasons of Breaking Bad were all available on Netflix, and people binged the hell out of it. But guess what it did? As one of these articles pointed out, you know, people went back and more people watched season 4 of Breaking Bad than if they, you know, more people watched season 4 of Breaking Bad as a result, and more people watched Mad Men as a result, because now they at least have a familiarity to the show. And that's how you properly utilize binge watching culture. You know, while television had to change, so did the streaming services, and I'm really ashamed that Variety did not mention this at all in their articles. And guys, I know I've gone on for an hour, and this is all I've got for you. I've dragged this out as long as it needs to be. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And guys, I'm actually curious what your thoughts are on streaming services going back to the broadcast model of weekly releases, or this happy middle ground of releasing the first 3 episodes of a show and then going weekly? Which method is your preferred method? Or do you prefer the Netflix model where every episode of a certain season drops all on the same day? So guys, I'm going to truly end it right here. Thanks so much for watching this if you stuck around this long. And if you guys have been following me long enough, you know I'm terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys on next time.